G&T show is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. Live long and prosper, bitches.
Are friends with benefits?
Speaking of having a good time, Terry.
Dayton broke the G&T show. This is now the David Mack
Appreciation Hour.
You assholes.
What is it about this guy that people love him so much?
With his purple velvet cape and his crown. I thought it was a little much when he had us carry him in the studio on a throne. I am awesome! Look what I have done! Look what I have brought upon the world!
There is an urge to go nya.
I heard rumors that you might be working on something else, but we won't prod much. I was gonna say
I'm gonna pry a little.
Dare you! How dare you ask me to change it? Do you not understand the majesty of my genius? And the guy sitting next to me looked at me like he was, like I'd cramped in his hat.
Yeah, it's the professionalism that sells the show. That's right.
And good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever you are, wherever you are. This is another G&T Supplemental Log coming to you from Farpoint 2015 in Baltimore, Timonium, Baltimore area. This is Gettysburg 7, and I'm interviewing the lovely Heather Hutsell, author of, she can tell you her background, and we're going to talk some writing. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
How did you break into writing?
I started when I was 11. That was actually the moment when it hit me. I really wanted to do this. I had just finished doing a project for a young authors program, and we were required to write something. So being really into Nancy Drew at the time, I wrote a murder mystery, and I had no idea when we started it that it was a competition. And then I found out afterwards I had been chosen as one of the winners.
How long was it?
I think it's about 10 pages long. I still have it.
Typed?
Handwritten.
Wow.
Handwritten. Yep.
Who did it?
Who handwrote it?
No, who did the murder?
Oh, I can't tell you that.
And that fired your passion?
Yes. So the next 3 years after that, I entered the program again and won each year, and it was like, oh man, I love this. So it's kind of a little external validation thing. I had found something I enjoyed doing, and other people seemed to think I was okay enough at it to get an award for them, so I just kept on it.
Do you know how many people you were competing against?
It was in 3 elementary schools worth, so I don't know, maybe 80 kids.
Wow, possibly. So that's a pretty good entry ratio that you beat out every year. And where was this?
This was on Bainbridge Island, Washington State.
Oh, wow. And what were your other 2 stories about? Do you remember?
They were also murder mysteries. I really got into those. The last one that I did had a little more of a horror twist because I started discovering Stephen King.
I was going to ask, Stephen King influence?
Yes, he was.
Haven't we all had that?
Probably so. At that morbid young, preteen going into teenage years.
We've talked on our show. Have you noticed in that Stephen King, it's like the middle school, junior high kids, that's when they discover him. He taps into something at that age group that I don't think many other authors have in such a deep way.
I think it's that interest in something a little more morbid, and he delivers that. So.
And he doesn't talk down to the readers either,
no.
Especially if you're a 12, 13, 14 years old, which I think. So how did you go to college after that?
I didn't actually. I'm a high school dropout.
Oh, wow.
I only got through my first trimester of my junior year and then went out into the world. Because of life circumstances at the time, I was going to get back into high school and I never was able to. So I just did a lot of self-study, got into philosophy, religion, literature, art history. I found a lot of it all tied in together, so it was really cool.
Now, what was your first published piece?
It's a story called Awakening Alice. It's a sequel to Alice in Wonderland, and it was actually part of a compilation with 3 other writers, all poets. It was a friend of mine who said, I love this story, can I put it in here? And I said, sure. And at the time, it was just the story, and I later released it with a second part and 48 illustrations.
Oh, wow. Did you do the illustration?
I did.
Oh, you're like...
I'm not very good.
You're a triple threat.
I'm not very good, but the type of art I wanted for it, I could not find an artist to do it at the time, so I went ahead and did it, and I must have been channeling somebody pretty awesome. It came out pretty good. That was in 2006 that the first edition came out. In 2007, I did on my own.
And what genre do you write in?
Generally anything that falls in the category of fantasy, vampire, werewolf, steampunk mysteries, dystopian fiction, the Alice in Wonderland stuff, and just anything that can be considered absurd and fantastical.
Our audience knows from absurd, trust me.
Awesome.
A lot of our listeners are fanfic writers or writing. Talk about your process and what you do for those that are thinking, I want to do this, I've got to sit down and do it. What do you do? How do you do it? Because every writer works differently.
For me, no matter what else is going on in my life, it's as important to me as eating or breathing. I will get to a point where I can no longer contain the ideas. They have to come out or I will explode. And just because I get one thing done doesn't mean that it's only replaced by one. I have, last count, about 40 works in progress. Whichever muse is speaking the loudest is the one that gets worked on at that time. And I'll bounce back and forth between a couple different pieces. I'll go back and read old stuff and add new content. And then eventually I'll reach a point where I will hone in on one and just pick that one to work on until it is finished and published.
And what you talked about your muse, what are your muses? Because what you write is so broad that the smallest thing can set something off.
Sure. A good part of it is people, not necessarily people that I know personally. It can be someone I've seen just a photograph of or seen in a movie or a couple lines from a song. Everything is fair game. It could be something as simple as a little brass lizard with ruby eyes that my grandmother used to have in a cabinet in her bathroom. I mean, it's everything. The world is full of inspiration.
Now, are you a full-time writer?
Unfortunately not.
What do you do for your day job?
Right now I am working for a film company in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, called Lionheart Filmworks. We do historical documentaries. I'm doing, part of the time I'm working on making costumes for the documentaries. When I was closer to the area, I would also act in some of them, which is fun. I got to be Lizzie Borden in a program on the Travel Channel called Church Secrets and Mysteries. That was my big claim to fame.
Did she do it?
Oh, I can't tell you that.
Well, no, I've read articles that say she didn't, articles that say she did.
It's anybody's guess. She was acquitted because there was not enough evidence. I really don't know. I mean, it could have been a number of things. If she did do it, there could have been a lot of reasons why, and cold-blooded murder might not have been one of them.
Right.
So, in addition to the costuming, I'm also working on a script on Native American history for a documentary series that will go straight to DVD. I did one last year called Emancipation Road that is available on DVD. So, script writing, costuming.
And then you go home and you write.
Yeah. Well, I do it all from home right now.
Oh, well, that's not bad.
Well, if the
Especially in this weather.
If the discipline is there for me to get busy and work instead of, mess around doing other little stuff, then yes, I can get a lot done.
And that's something we've talked about on our show is the discipline required, because it's real easy like a friend of mine said he took a week off and he was going to write, and he wound up like watching Judge Judy and Dr. Phil because he was off of work, and so do you like set, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, or do you take each day as it comes?
I try and write out a plan a week at a time. I know that I won't stick to anything longer than that, and then I'll break it down to, 3 days out, and then, micromanage a day. So I usually do all the stuff I have to do. A lot of the things I would like to do. I also make costumes for myself when I go to conventions and book signings. A lot of that.
You didn't wear one here.
I didn't, because the weather is awful, and driving in a corset is just not. I just don't like it. I do a lot of Victorian steampunk stuff, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I like to be authentic and then give it a twist.
Talk about going to conventions. A small convention like this, like Farpoint, it's so intimate in so many ways. And have you been to bigger cons like Dragon Con or any of those?
Not Dragon Con. I've been to the San Diego Comic Con several times, not as an author, as a patron. I like the big ones because there's so much to see, but it can be overstimulating very quickly. It is nice for the costuming. It's inspirational for me, for writing and for my costume. I've gone to ones that are not quite as big but are growing, like Steampunk World Fair. It's one of my favorites, also because of costuming and the innovation and so on. I love Farpoint because it is so author-friendly. It has more authors than any of the other shows that I have been to so far, and it's nice to have the support.
You should go to Shore Leave.
I will look into that.
It's in August.
Okay, sounds good.
It's there's even more authors.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's just like 2 exits up the road.
Okay, I'll have to look into that.
And talk like fan interaction. You get to know some people at conventions like Farpoint that go every year, and you get to know. And what's that like for you as an author?
I have been doing conventions only for 4 years, so I'm fairly new to the circuit. But this year, I should say in 2014, I really started having people come up to me and greet me by name, and that just blew me away. Like, really? You remember me? and I've had a few people who have bought and read my books actually come back and say, I love this, what else do you have? And that's a milestone. That's huge for me.
And speaking of which, how can people find your books?
You can get my books directly from me on my website, HeatherEHutsell.com. That's HeatherEHutsell.com. If you're into ebooks, you can get all of them on Amazon. Those would be the 2 best ways.
And we'll have the link to that on our webpage. And are you on Facebook? Do you have an author's page or anything?
I don't have a page. I just have my regular account, Heather E. Hutsell. I should be accessible. I'm not sure if I'm hiding or if I'm public anymore. Yeah. Anyway, I am on there.
Now, we have a series of questions we ask authors, and I'm doing these off the top of my head because they're on my computer, but I remember some of them. One of them is there an author whose books, when they're published, you go out right away and you say, I have to get by that author? Like for me, Neil Gaiman. When he publishes something new, I have to get it.
I just have to say one little thing about Neil Gaiman real quick. He is such a sweet person. I've gotten to talk to him twice, and he has one of my books on his bookshelf.
What book?
Awakening Alice, my first one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I gave it to him at San Diego Comic Con, so... Well, hopefully it's still on his bookshelf, but he did have one at one time.
When I finished Neverwhere, I literally teared up because I was done.
Yeah.
I didn't want that book to end.
I'm kind of out of the literary loop right now, so I've just been dabbling here and there with stuff that sounds interesting. But I will say, back when I was a teenager, I really got into V.C. Andrews, and I could not wait for the next one to come out.
We were talking on the show that the Flowers series was our generation's equivalent to what Twilight is now.
Yep. I would say one of her next series, Heaven, was about when I got into them, and then I had to backtrack some. But yeah, she was definitely her books I would go after.
Now, as a writer, is there an adjective you love, one you hate, and one you overuse?
An adjective.
We always stump writers with this one.
Yeah, that's a good question.
We call these our Lifton questions, like James Lifton from Inside the Actors Studio. While she's thinking about this, I have to tell you, she has the most shit-hot boots on right now. These things are awesome. They are like...
They're about 14 years old.
Yeah, they are well-worn. That is awesome.
I don't know. I guess because I've done the script writing and I try very hard not to repeat terms, I've really implemented that in my writing too. So I'm careful not to do that. It's funny though, on my drive here today, I was thinking about how every once in a while I'll post on Facebook, what's a word that you hate, just to see what people will say. And I'm going to post next time I'm on there, what's a word you love? And for some reason, I love the word chickie.
Chickie?
Yeah.
Like, come here, chickie?
Like a baby chickie.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know where that came from.
That's a fun word, though.
It is.
You know a word that I hate lately, and it's because it's been so overused in the media, is green.
Green. I can see that. Fusion. I hate the word fusion.
Maybe the first time I've heard of anybody hating fusion.
or infused. Everything is infused with something. Green tea, pomegranate, whatever.
Yeah.
Bad. Cauliflower is in right now.
Another word is, because it's been so overused in ads, nutrition.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of that word.
Or swap, like in health magazines. Try swapping out your chocolate for carrot sticks. No, it's not the same.
It's not even close in palate.
No.
Now, are you a Star Trek fan?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really.
Our big question is usually one that...
I will say that the first Star Trek movie I saw was Wrath of Khan, and I saw it at a very impressionable age, and it freaked me out. So, you know, the whole dropping the creature in the ear thing, that's just gross. But, you know, I grew up in Washington State, and my older brother and I had to go hang out in the woods from, you know, dawn to dusk, and so we found weird-looking creatures and stuff like that. It's freaky. It's real. So, you know, that movie has stuck with me all these years.
You know, that's missing now. Kids don't go and play in the woods anymore. It's just
awful.
And then, did you see what happened here in Maryland? 2 kids were walking home from the park, and it was less than a mile, and the mother got arrested because the kids were walking home.
Oh, that's ridiculous. We're over-policing, and officials are over-policing. That's a whole different podcast right there.
Yeah, it is. Are you a comic book reader at all, or were you?
I was. If my older brother and I were good in the grocery store, we were rewarded with a candy bar and a comic. So I followed Wonder Woman for quite some time. Spider-Woman was a favorite. There's actually a really obscure one I haven't seen since called Razzle Dazzle.
Oh, shut up. I remember that.
I had 2 issues of that one.
Do you remember the Dazzler?
Yes.
She was a mutant who was also like a disco queen.
Oh, maybe that was her. Yes. And in my later years, actually within the last 12 years, I got into Dame Darcy's Meat Cake, which her artwork is just fantastic. And I was fortunate enough to have her illustrate my most recent book.
Oh, wow.
It's a book of short stories called Woven Dreams, and she is a gem to work with.
So what's your next next thing that's coming out?
I'm working on the Steampunk Mystery Series. It'll be an 8-book series, and book 3 is in the editing process right now. I'm hoping it will be out in spring. I'm a self-published author, so it's between me and my editors and when we get it out.
Were you in you were in the business of writing panel in the audience?
Yes.
Very interesting. So much that, and I was just talking this morning on our show, that I'd never even thought of, like the taxes and then this and then that and self-publishing and corporations, and it was just like crazy.
Yes, very. Actually, the biggest reason I wanted to sit in on that one was for the whole marketing thing. Marketing is a bear. I know that publishing house authors also have to do their own footwork, but as a self-publisher, it is 100% me. I don't have anyone else helping unless it's by word of mouth, and it's rough. So the whole podcast thing is brand new to me. So thank you for having me on this.
My pleasure.
Great.
And would you say you're outgoing or more introverted?
It depends. I can be introverted until I'm put in a position where I'm really comfortable. Like, this is wonderful. I just had a great conversation with somebody a little while ago. We talked for a good 20 minutes and about whatever. It's fun.
And I think for things like that, the podcasting is a great boon for you because you can do it from Skype from your kitchen.
Yeah.
While drinking coffee and
right.
Doing whatever. And it's amazing because I think we're about the same age, although she's far, far better looking than I am, people. If you had told us when we were young, things like the smartphones and then I think of there's right now in front of us on the dance floor, there's a bunch of kids, I'd say about 4 or 5 years old, what they're going to have.
Right.
It's going to be crazy.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And now, when you wrote your first stuff, you hand wrote, you said the first one. Did you go the route like handwriting, then typer, then word processor?
Yes. Yep. Well, actually, even today, I will handwrite my first draft.
The whole thing?
Whole thing. It's just, there's something about putting the pen to paper. It's just easier for me. The thoughts flow. There's less distraction. It's just easier for me. I'm not tempted to go back and edit while I'm writing.
Now, do you use like a notebook, a yellow legal pad? How do you?
Usually spiral notebook, and I use Pilot Precise pens, blue ink if I can find them, medium or fine point.
You should see her smile as she's relating this.
Well, I once mentioned that I loved the Bottle Caps candy, and suddenly got people sending them to me in the mail. So I'm running low on pens.
And notebooks? And is college ruled or what?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I was that kid that at the end of the year when all the other students were like, "Yeah, school's out," and they were dumping stuff in the trash. I was like, "Give me your paper. Give me your paper."
Did you have a trapper keeper?
I did not. No, I didn't. I had 3 ring binders, though. I still have a few.
Is there anything else you'd like to add for our audience?
Occasionally I will do writing workshops, and I love doing talks at schools and libraries if I can get in. So if there's anybody interested in any of those, just contact me and let me know, and I'll try and work something out. I like to travel.
Can you do it like online as well, like a writer's workshop, like over a Skype or something you can have?
Well, I don't currently have internet at home, so if we do it at the library.
See, I know where she lives, and she's like in Amish country.
Right, yeah. I would prefer to do them in person. I'd love to travel, so that's fine. If we can work it out, then that'd be great.
Perfect. And it's HeatherEHutsell.com. We're going to have the link on there. Go look at her stuff, buy it, help her out. Starving artist. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
This is Gettysburg 7 saying Joel on True, bitches.
Music for the G&T show is provided by Warp 11, Andrew Allen, Grethor, and 5 Year Mission. This has been a Busy Little Beaver production.